Velvet. Yeah, give him a smile.
Give him a smile, Winker.
Give him a smile.
There you go. Well, thanks for joining us here at Miami Community News. And I'm wearing the hat today because you know what? I am the sheriff. I am the king of this show.
I love the new sheriff in town.
The new sheriff. Did you, by chance, we have a great show, by the way, for you today. We're going to talk a lot of local topics, Miami Heat, Bitcoin. I don't know if you heard, but Bitcoin now is going to be paid. I don't even know what Bitcoin is.
We're going to do Bitcoin 101 for you.
101. I need that.
For Grandpa.
Exactly.
Grandpa Korge.
Exactly. And we've got some really funny news in stories in the news that we're going to talk about today. Friday's sort of our free-for-all Friday. We love doing it that way. But I want to talk a little bit and ask you a question, David. Did you by chance see our program yesterday?
I did.
You did?
I did.
Okay.
Well, I don't miss it, by the way. I did see it.
Well, there was one person that was watching live by the name of Amy Livergood Donner.
Right.
And I just want to read her comment from yesterday. And her comment was she was taken aback. She thought we were a little too edgy, maybe. I don't know what the right word is, but she said, crass, is that the word? That'll probably be it, yeah. Okay. Well, it was a good word too, by the way, Tommy. And so that her comment was, maybe Facebook won't allow this show. That would be good. You may want to have a little decorum. The show is worse by the minute. Okay? Amy,
you definitely,
I'm the king.
You definitely do not. The decorum and Andy Korge do not go together.
They don't go together, and that's what this show is about. We try to have a little fun in the morning. Amy, if you don't know, bring up Amy's picture. I want everyone to see. There's Amy. Okay?
We love Amy.
She's smiling. I think she has a sense of humor, but I don't know, maybe not. And what she took umbrance to, you could take that picture off. My stomach is. I ate breakfast this morning. So here's she took umbrance to the fact that Commissioner. Oops, I said a bad word. Josh Liebman said the word pubes on the air yesterday. Now, I don't want to call you to the mat, David Winker, and I searched for it but couldn't quite find it. But I
started the conversation.
I remember you being on this show with me and bringing up that P word. Let's call it the P word for Amy because I don't want her to be too offended. But I recall you bringing up the P word.
Yeah, I was responsible for the start of that, but I got to tell you, it was unlike you guys. It wasn't gratuitous. It had to do with hair plugs. Right. And Michael Miller's.
Well, that's what Josh's comment had to do as well.
Full set of hair. And if you remember, it was you were jealous of Michael's hairline, which we all are amazed at. It looks like my hairline in 1988.
It's
right?
incredible.
It's incredible.
It's the most incredible hair plugs we've ever seen.
It is. Well, I always thought it was natural. I mean, that's how
I did too.
That doctor. Can we give a plug for the doctor?
Yeah. What's his name? Plitsky or Plitskin?
Fact checker.
Something.
He'll give it to us in a second. We're going to give a plug because it is beautiful.
We plugged him yesterday, by the way.
And then the reason the P word came up or how it was done was we were suggesting, if you remember, to you that we were going to use Michael Miller's hair from his private area to put on your forehead.
Right.
That's what the conversation was.
Yes.
The science of that. Like, would your body reject hair from the hair from the private region of Michael Miller if it was placed on your head?
Right. That was the comment. And Josh Liebman just played on that as well a little bit yesterday. And for whatever reason, I think Amy needs, I don't know what she needs, but she took umbrance to it, thought it wasn't the proper decorum and that we were tainting the integrity of Miami Community News.
I would react to that by, it's interesting to.
I said what integrity? I don't.
Well, I was gonna say what, and also it's to me it's like life's about setting expectations.
Yes,
and I don't know what the Miller's expectations are of you on the air.
Well, I don't know.
30-year track record on radio, so.
I mean, they listen. They know me, so they should have known from the start. This is not going to be. If they want decorum, they picked the wrong cow. They picked the wrong cowboy. Okay?
I am here to defend Amy and I want to invite Amy to come on the show.
I'd love to.
Because Amy, I know Amy will run circles around you, and I want to watch it. So hopefully Amy will engage, not be so turned off by the whole situation, and come on and put you in your place.
I welcome Amy. I welcome Amy to come and be a part of this with me.
And we will, and I will represent Amy. And we will have parameters.
Well, wait a minute. She has a lawyer representing her. I mean, come on.
I will help as general counsel to Miami Community Newspapers, and we'll have parameters. We'll have a mute button. I've heard talk that the Miller brothers are going to put a mute button. What is it? A kill button? The kill switch? What's the name? Tommy in radio?
Oh,
the dump button.
The dump button.
We're gonna have a dump button for you, and we're gonna gear up properly.
Oh my gosh! Well, let's talk some news now that we've ragged on Amy.
I swear to you that coming in this morning, I was listening to NPR with my 8-year-old daughter, dropping her off at school, and just listening to NPR, and I was thinking of that the Chinese curse, "May you live in interesting times." Here we are. We have so much to talk about. It's like, well, there's nothing really going on, right? I mean, there's so much. It's crazy.
Yes. Well, talking about crazy, and maybe you can edify me on this, David Winker. But the city of Miami, I saw an article today in the newspaper, Miami Herald, about how the city of Miami is contemplating paying their employees and allowing payment of certain city services by their residents to be made in Bitcoin. Is this just another Francis Suarez? I'm a techie guy. Come on, all you techie people to Miami.
It's interesting you say, because you think about it, it's like, so I'm going to break it down the Bitcoin thing, because I think it's an important thing. But it is getting thrown into like the Elon. Remember, he had a conversation with Elon Musk about the tunnel underneath Brickell and stuff for electric vehicles, I think was what it was. And, that sounds crazy to me. This Bitcoin stuff, you could literally just, do a Bitcoin 101 about what this means and what's happening. Bitcoin, it's hard to describe what it is, but it's a currency. It's a non-fiat currency, meaning that the government can't control it. And so the way that I always do it, it's almost it's like Pokemon cards, right? It's like whatever the value that we give this thing, and this thing that was worth nothing initially is now at $47,000 for one.
Almost 48,000.
And it was interesting, because what happened to me was my experience with Bitcoin was the nicest house in my neighborhood was for sale. I couldn't afford it. I went and looked at it. I wanted it. I couldn't pull it off. The guy bought it. I see the guy. It's like a 25-year-old kid.
Oh no.
And of course I get to, I'm like, oh my God, you got a great house. I go talk. I'm just literally knocked on his door. Like, this house is awesome. This is great.
I could see you doing.
And I'm like, but of course, all I want to know is what's this story, right?
Yes.
Well, it turns out he's a guy from Virginia, drops out of college, gets involved with Bitcoin, and turned $1,500 into $7 million.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. So he was right on the ground floor. I start talking to him. And so when he's like, you need to buy one Bitcoin. That was his thing. Just buy one.
What was the Bitcoin at?
Well, at the time it was about 7,000. And he said to me, he's like, we became friends. And he's like, I will tell you, like, we're going to buy the dip, and he was very clear. And I would tell anyone that's listening to this, and this is my whole point of my story I'm getting to, is he was like, it got down to $4,600, I think, at some point a couple of years ago. And he's like, do you have $4,600? Yes, I do. Do you have $4,600 to lose? So here's a guy that had made $7 million, but he was like, I want to be very clear. This could be worth nothing. Like he was like, look me in the eye and know that you could lose all this. I don't want you to do this because of me. Yeah, I can afford to lose. I'm willing to bet that. That one Bitcoin that I have is now $47,000. But what's more important has just been the experience of watching it and learning about it, right? I mean, Bitcoin, it is kind of cool. It's learning how it's kept and what's happening and what the future of money is going to look like. Because the reason Bitcoin is going up is why?
Well, because I guess more people are spending online.
No,
I don't know.
That's the thing. No, it's online. Not the utility of it. People aren't really using it. And there are some utilities, which I'll tell you about, but it's not that. It's an inflation hedge right now. The reason it's going through the roof is my wealthy clients are buying trading cards, which we're going to talk about some.
Really?
They're buying art. They're buying antique cars because they anticipate inflation is going to happen. We're already seeing it.
Right.
So the idea is they always say, so the Bitcoin guys will say to you, are you betting on the US dollar? You know, if you don't own Bitcoin or art or something outside of an asset outside of cash, you're betting on the US dollar. And what they're saying, Andy, is right now, short term, the dollar does not look like a good bet. They're not saying, Andy, that the dollar is going to go down to nothing. The dollar is going to remain the primary currency in the world, and it's always going to be strong. But we do anticipate inflation. So your $10,000 in the bank is going to be worth less in 5 years.
Yeah,
so
but
that's what's encouraging it.
But doesn't it scare you? I mean, it's $4,600, and to some people it's a lot of money, right? I'm not discounting that, but doesn't it scare you that it's not backed by any banks?
No, let me be clear.
Not backed by any government.
That's what I want to get to. So here I am. I'm enjoying it. Why? I made a lot of money on it, right? I've never had an investment that went up so much, but it could go down to nothing, right? And I want to be clear. So I think it's interesting that government is embracing this, because one of the things is a lot of the guys, the hardcore guys, Andy, look at it as anti-government, because you can't manipulate Bitcoin, right? Right now, the U.S. Treasury, we need Tommy, the fact checker, to look at it, but like how much money today is being dumped into the U.S. by our government? The governments control currency. We hear about it in China, but it happens here. This is something that's beyond the control of the government. The government can't stop this. But so you have government embracing Bitcoin, which is interesting, right? Because there's been talk, like Nigeria, for example. Nigeria this past week or this past month started seizing any bank accounts associated with Bitcoin.
Wow.
They're seizing them. They're trying to stamp out Bitcoin for this reason, because Bitcoin will quickly replace an unstable currency.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Not unstable. Bitcoin's unstable, but a control that the people perceive as being artificially manipulated by the government. They'll just say like, well, no, we're just going to start doing stuff in Bitcoin. So it's interesting to see government embracing something that's kind of anti-government. But I will also tell you, it's scary because of the volatility. I have seen swings when the crash happened. You know, it went from 17,000 back down to 4,000. So it will be interesting to see what happens. I personally think it's cool. I think it's challenging.
Would you be comfortable getting paid as a City of Miami employee by Bitcoin?
I think so. Well, right now, but what happens when it crashes, and that dollar you got paid is worth a nickel?
Exactly.
But you can also convert it immediately.
You can.
Yeah, you can. That's one thing I think that people don't understand about Bitcoin is there are exchanges. You have it right there that you can just I can buy and sell Bitcoin like a stock. So the idea is, you could get paid in Bitcoin and they could immediately convert it into cash.
So tunnels under Miami, tech companies coming here, now Bitcoin. What's next for Francis?
But this is exciting. I got to tell you something. I share your skepticism, but I also I think the publicity is good for Miami. And I know, and listen, I am out there fighting every day for the thing. Your reaction, I know, is we can't house our people.
We can't. The transportation's horrible. Housing's terrible. People who earn $50,000, $60,000 a year can't even find a place to live outside of Homestead or practically the Everglades in West Kendall. And you're inviting all these people to come here and live. And you think it's going to create jobs? I'm not so sure about it, what great jobs it's going to create, or is it going to create an influx of people? We see how many people are moving out of California, the Silicon Valley, moving to Texas, moving to Florida. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I don't get why politicians continue to look for bigger, better next.
I like
don't look
but
at this
is kind of like this. What's interesting about this is it's like a variation of let's build ourselves out of it, right? Let's just put up a bunch of high rises. What is it? The Miami as a sunny place for shady people,
right?
Like this is like the ultimate shady thing. Like this made up money.
Exactly. And now the city. I mean, we've had so many scams in Florida. I mean, the latest, which we talked about yesterday, and part of the reason why my good friend Amy Livergood Donner was commenting nastily about us. We were taught with one of the first stories we covered yesterday was the streaker in the Super Bowl who won $375,000 on a $50,000 bet that he placed a prop bet in the Super Bowl that a streaker would not show up on the field of the Super Bowl. He won the bet by being the streaker. Okay, so scams are bred in South Florida, and now you have the city of Miami saying, we're going to pay you in Bitcoin. You know, what's next? Litecoin, Ripple, Stellar, any of
I
these.
can't believe you know those names.
Yeah,
I'm impressed, Grandpa
well, I
Korge.
do my research, okay?
I like it.
I do my research, but what is it? We're going to pay them in all these other coins? I think most of it, and I'm not saying Bitcoin's a scam. Altcoins.
That's what those are called.
I'm not saying Bitcoin is a scam, but my God, when you start a thing like Bitcoin, 2009, it was started not that long ago, 12 years ago. When you start something like Bitcoin, and then all of a sudden you have all these other coins being, internet coins being made up. By the way, Bitcoin, reading about it, they don't even know who the author of it is. I mean, doesn't that make you a little skeptical? It's like Sakamura Maki or whatever his name was.
That's racist.
Well, I don't know. His name was, what was his name? I wrote it down.
No, it's hard to
Satoshi Nakamoto.
That's a made-up name. But
it's a made-up name.
Yeah.
Yes. So it just the whole thing gets me a little,
Okay, boomer. That's what we're going to start calling you. Boomer George.
Oh my God, yes. I'm telling you, that's how I feel.
Well, before we leave it, it's going to be interesting. And one of the things that I am excited about Bitcoin is I do think it's going to start getting used for the following. They talk about micropayments. So I always say, like, we all have all our workarounds,
right,
for newspaper firewalls and all that stuff. Like we all have those things. What if I said to you, you're going to pay a penny for every news article that you read? And that penny is going to go to fund journalism, right? You'd probably be willing to do it. So these really little micropayments, I think, is a way, like, where money doesn't really work. Like, you can't, give your credit card and do a penny, whatever. The idea of just giving like a tenth of a cent for all this different stuff and just getting, I do think there is a utility to this in the online world where we're willing to pay something, right? I mean, I know a lot of people, they're not willing to pay, $120 years for the Herald.
Right.
Would they be willing to pay 5 cents a day for the Herald? Like, it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. That's one of the, but right now it's not the utility of the Bitcoin. But yeah, I got to tell you something. Like,
before I got to interrupt you, Denise just walked in with Cuban coffee. And I just want to point out that Denise must have a crush on you or something.
Not me.
Yes, because the only time she brings in Cuban coffee is when David Winker's on the show.
I have a crush on Denise. But
everybody has
I don't
a
think
crush
it's
on
exactly. I was say I don't think it's reciprocal. But I also and I also note that Denise. Thank you, Denise. Good morning. Denise has not complained about your show.
Which
only leads me to, but I got to tell you something. It's
Amy Donner because
I was just saying no. You broke. Well, I don't believe her because I only think the reason she's not complaining is she doesn't watch the show. Because anyone watching your show will complain.
Well, and she may complain because at the end of the show, I'm going to pick a question at random from this. Can you go to the other camera, Tommy? Thank you, Denise, so much. Going this game that I started playing, I wish I didn't know. I'm going to ask you one question from this, which in all likelihood, I brought this in thanks to Amy Donner because I want her to see what distasteful really is. I'm going to pick one out randomly and ask you and see if you can get the answer to that. But we'll wait till the end of the show. Let's talk a little sports now. Okay? Miami Heat, man, they are, I know you guys, you and Takedown Tommy over here, or as Grant wants to call him, Triple Crown Tommy.
Triple Crown. Because
you guys are about to start a show on the Florida Marlins. What was it? Fishbait covered it. Fishbait, mainline Marlins.
No. But he's talking about the he got
fish stripes. I'm sorry. SB Nation. So covered that you guys are starting right here on community newspapers on the 17th of this month. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. I got a alert on my phone to watch it when you guys are doing it. I'm really looking forward to that. But I know we got baseball coming up, but the Miami Heat are sitting sixth now in the division despite a 10-14 record. They played last night, start of a 7-game road trip in Houston. Looked great, man. The team has looked fantastic since Jimmy Butler came back. Yeah. They've dealt with
and I'd say it's interesting because I swear to you, my 8-year-old daughter was watching the first. I turned it on.
Yeah, me too.
And like my 8-year-old daughter, this is how I think of like how sports fans are born. 8-year-old daughter, she'd asked me a couple times, where's Jimmy Butler? Where's Jimmy Butler? When I told her Jimmy Butler's hurt, she was all upset. I'm like, no. And it's fine. I still don't know what was wrong with Jimmy Butler. I was like, I'm trying to describe to an 8-year-old. I was like, no, it's not a big deal. And I kind of like, because you're trying to explain almost like maintenance, right? Yes. It's like, no, this part of the season doesn't matter. So we need Jimmy Butler rested, But long story short, she sees Jimmy Butler and she's like, that's Jimmy Buckets. Jimmy Buckets is back, Poppy. Jimmy Buckets is back. And I was so excited that she noticed,
and she calls him Jimmy Buckets.
Jimmy Buckets, that's what I call him. Right. Jimmy Buckets. She knows he's Jimmy Butler, but Jimmy Buckets. But in the first game, they struggled. They lost that game.
Yes.
And Jimmy was first game back. It wasn't great, and I saw her frustration. She's like, oh my God, like we can't, and it's been, it's fun. I always say these sports are our soap opera. Right? Like I follow it. I listen to the radio the next morning, 15 minutes of heat. And it's like, you're seeing the genius of Eric Spoelstra, right? You're seeing like the machine. It's like the parts are starting to come together.
Yeah, they're really starting to come 6 out of 7. And Butler what is he like? He's like a fine wine. I mean, he seems to be getting better and better with time. In the 7 games he's been back, last night he had a triple-double, 27 points. Since he's been back, he's been averaging 23, 9 and 9 assists and 9 rebounds a game. Yep. I mean, he just looks unbelievable. The other thing I gathered from the game last night, and most of it of which I watched, was the Heat are really starting to play some old style Miami Heat defense now. Yep. And that's really where their bread is always been buttered.
I think he brings that, and it's funny too, because I think that the way that I look at it is like, so I'm a big hockey fan. And one of the big things in hockey is you have lines, right, that play against other lines.
Right.
So you have 3 forwards. And there's 2 kinds of players in the NHL. There's the player, the star, that has to have around him like supporting people. Right? And there's other stars that they literally just put them on and just like whoever the bums are, put him on with him because he's going to make them look fantastic.
Right.
Like whoever's that right winger is going to have 40 goals, no matter what, whoever he is. And it's funny because, and that's always the rap. Is it a star that makes them better? Because then those other players that would normally be the supporting role, guess what they're doing? They're heading up their own line, right? They have their own line, and so that's how teams grow, right? And Jimmy Butler is that way. Like to see some of those guys around him, to see Hero. Tyler Hero looks like a different player when Jimmy's around.
Although Tyler Hero's out, will be out this whole trip, it looks like, COVID protocol.
No, yeah, exactly.
And they've been hit hard with that. The other thing I love about our Miami Heat, and one of the things that I just love about this team, and I think it speaks to what you said about Spoelstra as a coach, is every time someone goes down, or in the case of the COVID, they've had, to really deal with COVID, probably worse than any other NBA team, is there's always some player that steps up and I'm going, who the heck is that guy? And now it's this player, Max Struss, who now was thrown into the rotation. He had 21 points, hit 5 of 8 from 3-point range. 3-point range last night. It's just remarkable to me the way that Spoelstra always seems to pull a rabbit out of his hat.
It's an interesting thing, and I got to tell you something. Like here in Miami, I have seen Spoelstra out with his family, and when you see him interacting with his wife and his kids, he's just he's not a blue collar guy, but he's a normal dude, right? He came up through this coaching job was not given to him.
Do you think we could learn? Do you think we could learn how to manage our children from Spoelstra? Maybe we should just hang around with him and see the way he manages his kids. I was skeptical of Spoelstra. And remember when LeBron tried to go above his head to get Riley, and Riley said no way, and gave him his vote of confidence and stuff. And when I see him on the sidelines, I love Spoelstra's face sometimes, like when things are going bad, or like it's just like his calming influence. Like I swear it's like a leadership thing of he's done it over and over again, and he's put these pieces together. And I'm with you. I love the Heat. Like I love it. I love watching this. And I think it was looking really bad. The team looked bad. And everyone was starting to panic a little bit. And you saw the online, like on Twitter, people are going back and forth. And not me.
Well, but people were. And then a lot of the old timers listen, nothing matters right now. Jimmy Butler's not here.
Exactly.
And also, I think it's just like, it's always like, is this the year that Spoelstra doesn't figure it out, right? And he always seems to find the pieces, like you said, of these random people. But yeah, I'm excited. I got to tell you something. It's going to be really interesting. And they have a chip on their shoulder. I mean, everyone counted them out. They're like, oh, it was a special bubble thing. That's the only reason they made it to the finals.
And let me tell you something. Spoelstra always figures it out. I mean, whether it's with 3 superstars, like when we had the big 3 in LeBron, Dwayne, and Bosh.
Completely different setup. And now
he's figuring it out with young players and mixing in a leader like Butler. Butler's leadership really is, I think, the difference in this team.
And I got to tell you, so I have two reactions to that. One is Butler's leadership. Again, not to bring up a boring hockey analogy, but Bobby Orr was one of the most famous players for the Boston Bruins. And they asked about his style of leadership. And one of his players said, well, I'll tell you about his style of leadership. He goes, I was having a really off night. I couldn't do anything right. And I came into the locker room after the first period. And he says, I sit down. He's like, back then they used to smoke. He said, Bobby Orr lights up a smoke and just stares at me. He didn't say a word.
And that was his leadership.
And I knew, like, I'm about to get my ass kicked if I don't get it.
Well,
you can tell Jimmy Butler's he's not saying a lot.
Certain players have a presence about them, and all they need is that presence to, get the locker room together. Not a lot of talking, just the presence that does it.
But also, I got to tell you something. It's that fearlessness. Like I feel the same. I love Dwayne Wade, and I think one of the reasons I love Dwayne Wade, it's like that just fearlessness. Like, I don't know what y'all are gonna do. Like, I don't know about y'all. I'm going and getting it. And it just, when you're with someone like that, and just you got the follow.
Can't help but
you
follow.
Can't help. Exactly. You're just like that guy. There's that guy. Here's this guy that's
diving on the floor.
He's making $30 million a year. Exactly. And he's giving it up on every play. Like, what am I got to get my butt in gear.
Exactly. Of course, someone who's a little tainted by that could say, well, he's making $30 million a year and I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. No, but I think seeing the guy that makes the big money doing the hard work, I think that's where the leadership comes from. That they're willing to do it. They're the alpha dog and they're willing to do the dirty work. I think it gets people going. I would also say to you it reminds me of Nick Saban was asked about his coaching philosophy one time, and he said it all boils down to one thing. I want people, after they play us, to say to themselves, like, those guys are pains in the butts. Like, I don't want to play them again. Win, lose, or draw. He's like, I just want you to be like, oh my God, those guys are a tough play. Did he do that? I try to apply that even in my life as a lawyer. It's like, I can't guarantee a result. I can't, anything, but one thing I can do, I can make sure that person on the other side is like, oh my God, that guy's a pain in the, like, that guy brings it at every case. Yeah. I think and the heat that's a great way to go through life.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. It's Friday, so let's have a little bit of fun and talk about some of the funny stories in the news. Tommy, if you could cue it up, let me lead into it. Okay. So I don't know, a lot of people my age and your age even, but although you're a lawyer, so I'm sure you probably are real adept at it, have some what we might call challenges dealing with Zoom. And, sometimes it's, I don't know if I'd say it's emasculating, but it's sometimes a little embarrassing, let's say. Well, we had a congressman on the floor of the United States House of Representatives that, that made me feel a little better about my inability.
Your fumblings. Grandpa Korge's fumblings
on Zoom. Let's take a look at Congressman from Minnesota, Tom Emmer's bout with Zoom just yesterday.
Obviously. Today's gig economy sprung out from the last recession. It offers a job to anyone who wants one. During COVID-19, we must make sure that our sole proprietors and the smallest of small businesses receive timely.
Will the gentleman suspend? I'm sorry, Mr. Emmer?
Yes.
Are you okay?
I am.
You're upside down, Tom.
I don't know how to fix that.
Would someone assist Mr. Emmer in getting right side up?
What's that?
Yeah, Madam Chair, is this a hat?
Is this a metaphor?
I don't know, but he's upside down.
Tommy, that's
know how to
good.
fix
That's
it.
good, Tommy. That's good. So here you are. You know, it's coming from all walks of life, and the whole Zoom world that we live in now, the technical world is requiring, you know, dinosaurs like me to have to sort of adapt to it. You know, look at our congressional delegates, our representatives. They got to deal with the new technology, and Zoom being one of them. And unfortunately, Representative
Tommy, did you guys
had a little challenge with it.
Did you see the cat lawyer? No. So yeah, next time you do it, there was a similar one where a lawyer in hearing comes on, and he's a cat. These little meme faces.
Yes.
And he's a little kitten.
And he did it on purpose?
No.
Oh,
but the best, I'll tell the story. So he's there, and you see this little kitten in court, right? And the judge says, excuse me, counselor, I think maybe you have a filter on.
Can you find that, Tommy?
He's doing it, and it was funny because like what I thought was so interesting is like the judge left open the possibility that maybe like it was a cat lawyer, right? I think maybe you have a filter on. And then of course he says at the end, Tommy's bringing it up, but at the end, the lawyer, you know, we're all fact based, and we're in court, we're officers of the court, and he says, you know, I'm not a cat.
Yeah, not a cat. Good thing he clarified
but the
that.
best part of it was
for this one, you may have seen the term
there you go.
cat lawyer trending on Twitter overnight, and it's all thanks to a viral video. If you haven't seen it, check out what happened when an attorney showed up to Zoom court.
Mr. Ponton, I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings.
Look at his eyes.
Listen,
You might want to take a look.
Can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
I hope it wasn't.
you hear me say, I'm not a cat.
I'm not a cat.
I'm not a cat.
Joining us now is attorney Rod Ponton. Mr. Ponton.
Stop the video,
So-
Tommy.
I can't believe you hadn't seen that.
That's a classic.
Cat lawyer.
That's a classic.
And I
So,
love it.
You know, I'm
So-
surprised it's in Texas that someone didn't come with a gun and
And so when he says he's not a cat, of course, I was like, that's exactly what a cat would say.
It's exactly. Yeah, if you don't want people to know you're a cat, I'm not a cat lawyer. I want to be represented by that guy. I mean,
Well, that's what
that
you're saying. From now on, he just needs to be that kid.
I hope it wasn't like a murder trial or something, you know. I mean, my gosh, that would have been a little bit too comical for those types of proceedings.
I would say too is I have two more observations about that video. Is one in the upper left-hand corner, if you see it, it's like this huge warning that says like any recording of this proceedings is like a criminal act. So of course somebody had to release that. And two, it is so funny that when he got stuck with, it's not some fearsome like panther. It's that little kitten face with the eyes.
Oh my God. I thought when you said it, I thought it was, one of those things where it's your face, but you just got the little nose and the whiskers. Have you ever seen those people do that? Those filters or whatever? I thought it was one of those, but the guy's a cat.
He's a cat.
For gosh sake. By the way, a cute cat. I wouldn't
Yeah, he was
mind
pretty cute.
having that cat as a pet, but maybe he could be a pet to somebody. I don't know. I don't want to get into
I am not a cat.
I don't want to get into his kinky natures, but at any rate, so there we are. It's, Zoom is something we have to deal with, and people are having challenges, much to our pleasure with it. Congressman Emmer, your friend in Texas, the lawyer in Texas, it's good to see. I don't know if you heard this funny story in the news that occurred right here in the state of Florida, but if you were traveling up I-95 yesterday morning near the Jacksonville area at mile marker 305, you were diverted off of 95. They had to close 95 because there was beer all over the highway. So, and I guess maybe a lot of white guys. That was the reaction at the University of Florida, by the way. That was the reaction to the story. An accident, a tractor trailer filled with bottled and canned beers, had an accident. Fortunately, no one was hurt. No one was injured, except for a lot of beer. I believe it was something like 2,000 cases of beer was all over I-95 yesterday. And again, if we could see the reaction, Tommy, again, from students at the University of Florida regarding the tragic occurrence, here's how they reacted. So I think that I don't know, when I was in college, I would have been in my car heading for 95 from Gainesville, seeing what could be salvaged on the road. You're not much of a drinker, are you?
I don't drink, but I get I love the anytime it's like these dog bites, man, news stories, like the spilling, the Brinks truck spilling money on the road. It speaks to our human nature of, what are you that when you're that car, like how do you resist? I don't drink. And I think I'd still go grab a 6-pack of beer and put it in the back of the truck.
Why not?
Give it to you.
Why not? Well, another story in the news that I want to talk a little bit about before we finish here. It's always intrigued me, David, and I wonder your opinion of it. And I know a lot of people, these stories end up in the news because people are intrigued by it. But if you want some presidential memorabilia, an online auction started yesterday and will run through President's Day by a Boston-based auctioneer called RR Auction for presidential memorabilia. And let me read a couple of the items that is going to be in this online auction. Hair of George and Martha Washington, their actual hair. And I wonder, like, how did someone get it? How many hands did? I mean,
no. And how?
That's a long time ago.
As a lawyer, I can tell you my first. How are you authenticating? Like, what's the chain of custody of that hair?
Great point. You always wonder too, like, is this stuff real or is it just, hey, let me cut a piece of my hair off, although I don't have much. Let me cut a piece of my hair off, put it in a bag and say it was.
It's funny because think about it. It's like, I always say, like,
Truman Capote's hair.
I can take your house and with available records, I can take your house back to Queen Isabella, right? Like we have that record. What is the comparable record to this piece of George Washington's hair? It's crazy.
How about JFK's crimson Harvard sweater? I mean, first off, I don't think it fit me. I'm not a tall, thin, 40-something-year-old guy, right? I mean, or Harvard, he was a 20-something-year-old guy, or maybe less. But that's up for auction. Photo of Lincoln and his son Tad, signed by the 16th president, is up for auction. Also, Andrew Johnson's Order of National Day of Mourning after Abraham Lincoln's assassination is another item that is up for auction. Last year, I wanted to throw this at you because it's mind-boggling to me. Last year, Honest Abe's blood-soaked hair that apparently was taken from him after he was shot. The President of the United States shot. He's dead on the floor.
Hair.
Someone says, hold on. Let me get some hair because I know in 2021, someone's going to want to pay an ungodly amount of money for this blood-soaked hair from our 16th president. So that last year fetched the same auction company. Apparently they've been doing this every year around President's Day, fetched $81,000. More than you could have bought almost 2 Bitcoins.
Bitcoin. And what's interesting about this, I got to tell you something. This thing with the hair, it seems so crazy, but like there is going to come a point where science maybe allows us to build something off of that. Like can we clone President Lincoln? Can we clone George Washington in the future? I don't know. We'd have to ask our, next time we have a doctor on, is that ever, mathematically in the future, is that possible? So I see some value to DNA, right? There is some value to be able to study George Washington's DNA in the future, I guess. But
but you bring up a good point. I mean, this could be just a scam. This could all be scams. And I am so living in Florida. I'm so skeptical about everything.
And it's interesting. I got to tell you something,
especially Bitcoin.
I got to tell you a funny story before we go. And I had a chance to tell you. So I saved the city of Miami a park yesterday.
You did.
You made me think about what scams. So I got a call representing some people on Brickell, and they had become aware that the Miami-Dade County was auctioning off Brickell Park.
Which park is that?
Brickell Park is a city park that's between, where the food trucks are, where the Presbyterian church is?
Yes.
There's a park between that.
Right next to the icon.
Yes. You know that park?
Oh, yes.
Space?
I love that park.
It's a great, beautiful park.
Yes.
It's such an important green space. It was being auctioned off.
Are you kidding me?
Yesterday at 2 p.m. on the courthouse steps.
No way. Why would that?
Well, that's what. So of course. So let me tell you the story. So the way that it went down was, you see, it's there. It's black and white. Well, the reason it was someone was asking me is this a scam? And of course, as I read it and researched it, and I pull up the tax bills because it was based on an old tax bill, I'm like, okay, listen, we can figure this out later. Somebody has to get to the courthouse. It was $3,700. Go get a cashier's check. It's literally a different condo. Who is gonna go to the bank and get the check and get this before noon, before the deadline? Someone has to pay this, and then we'll sort it out later, right? Is this owned by the city? Is this money owed by the city of Miami? Which would make no sense, right? The city of Miami doesn't pay taxes to the Dade County. It's their park. Why are they having to pay taxes? I'm like, we'll figure it out later. Someone go stop this auction because someone, and it was interesting because what it turned out to be it was an old tax bill that the developer, it was Related Group. There was an old tax bill from 2010, 2011. Someone had bought the certificate. Some lady in Virginia owned it, and they were auctioning it off. So, it
was the park.
No, it was getting auctioned off.
Oh my God!
Here's what happened. What was interesting about this, Andy, was I was like, if I was a more unscrupulous person, I couldn't. It would get auctioned, right? And who knows what would have happened? There's all this. There's people that do that for a living.
Right.
Not that I could have bought it, but it's you and I could have had the park.
Oh my God!
And bought this park.
I would have thrown a heck of a party in that park.
I had this Carl Hiaasen vision of I would just pull up in my Airstream and just park it right there in the water there, But yeah, it made me think of the scam. But it was funny that that's how skeptical we are. Was presidents of condo associations are looking at this tax bill, me saying go to the courthouse and pay the money. You're paying it to Miami-Dade clerk, right? And people are still on edge, right? Wait, where's the scam here?
Yes.
It's no, there's no scam. It's we got to stop this. Then we'll figure out who owes us the money.
That is incredible.
Yeah. So I was like,
so what was the end result?
The end result was I called Doug Hanks at the Herald and told him the story. I said, if you write this story, make sure you say Winker, who always fights the city, saved their park this morning.
Wow. You are, man. You should walk around with a big S on your chest all the time, David Winker. Really? You are one.
But the best part of that story was my wife saw it all happen, and she's she's not impressed at all because what was her reaction? Why was she not impressed?
She should have been,
She's like, you're not making any money doing this. Another free job. Another pro bono thing you do.
She should have been kissing the ground when you walked on.
Her reaction is I see all this good work. You're not getting paid for it.
Listen, whatever way you're going to exit the studio today, let me know because I will kiss the ground behind you.
So remember that when you go to the food trucks, when it's all back open and you see that park, you can remember the day I saved.
Wow. I do love that park. Before we go, everyone has probably seen this already, but Tom Brady, if you can bring it up, through maybe the worst pass in the history of his career. Let's take a look at it on the boat parade in Tampa. It's him on the back of the boat. What is that he's throwing?
See him count it? 1, 2, 3.
That looks like the Lombardi Trophy. That has got to be the worst pass in the history of Tom Brady.
Yeah,
stellar career.
Why did he not throw it overhand?
I don't know. He threw it like a little girl, and I don't know.
I don't know.
And I don't know if you heard it. His daughter was screaming at him, "Daddy, don't do it! Don't do it!" Even his daughter knew that the Lombardi Trophy is sacred. You don't throw.
What I thought was interesting was at the boat. You see, it's not. You know, they were concerned. Like multiple people. It was like a Hail Mary in the end zone. Like there was multiple people grabbing for it. It could have. Okay,
so let's end with. I know we got to get going. We got another great show coming on here at Miami Community News. I just want to read. Here's the again. I wish I didn't know. It's a great trivia game, and I am going to pick a card out of here. I don't know what it's
randomly
selected, and I'm going to read this to you. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see if you can answer this, and then we'll end with this. We love bringing you this show. Thanks for joining us today. David Winker, this U.S. state still has a ban on sex toys. Is it A, North Dakota, B, Alabama?
Yeah, I was going to say Alabama.
C, North Carolina, or D, Idaho?
I say B, Alabama.
You are correct, miss. I don't want to play this game against you, but you knew it just
That's
right.
a legal question.
I mean, it was kind of a legal question. I guess it was. I gotta fool you with some other one next week. Thanks so much for joining us here at Miami Community News, the Andy Korge Show. I hope that was good enough to the hub of news and information. Thank you. I hope that was decorum enough for Amy Livergood Donner. Amy, thanks for watching. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again on Monday right here at Miami Community News. Have a great week.
Have a great weekend.